Hey there kids, welcome to another math video. This is for Eureka Math, grade 5, module 4, lesson 26, homework. And the objective at the bottom of the page to divide a unit fraction by a whole number. Unit fractions, remember, are a fraction with a 1 as your numerator. So we have all these handy ones which make our calculations very, very easy. Life isn't going to be like this, but it will help you to learn what we're doing. So go watch the problem set video. If you have not seen this concept before, please understand it before you do it. Also, you should have completed this assignment already, and this homework video is just for the purpose of checking your homework and seeing what you did well or what you need to work on. So let's get started. The directions are solve and support. Your answer with a model or a tape diagram. And so some students in my class are saying, hey, I really like the area model. And I'm saying, I don't care what you use, an area model or a tape diagram. They're both very handy, but you do have to write something. And then write your quotient in the blank. So if I only have half of something, and I have to divide that into 4 pieces, your tape diagram or model might look something like this. If this is 1, we don't have 1, we only have a half. So you should start with what you have. Okay, now I always tend to call this the whole. The whole of what I have is just a half here in this case. And then this half has to be divided into 4 pieces. And so then the double shading would be here on one of the 4 pieces. And so we're saying, what is the size of this piece? Now, I've been encouraging my students to rewrite this statement, but put 4 as a whole number over 1. And then we use our shortcut of keep this the same. You keep it because you can't change your dividend. This is all you have. That's can't be changed, can't be moved. Okay, so I have 1/2. But I'm going to do the opposite with the opposite. So it's like a double negative, and so it's undoing it. So I'm going to do the opposite sign from division, which is multiplication, and I'm going to use the reciprocal of this fraction 4 over 1. The reciprocal, the opposite, is 1 over 4. Multiply straight across, multiply across the bottom. You have your answer. And then that should be reflected in the size of this one piece that has the double crisscross shading. Okay, so we're going to use this method all we can. I'll show you all the methods on the bottom, even though it's a total hassle. But if your teacher, if you're one of my wonderful subscribers and your teacher says, hey, I really want you to divide and then multiply to check, then I'll do that for you here. But if you're one of my lucky students, we're going to do it this way. All right. So if I only have 1/3, I would have 1 out of 3 pieces shaded. If it's divided by 6, that's 6 whole pieces within this one. You should cut it in half so you can put 3 on the left and 3 on the right. And then our question is to identify what is the size of this tiny little guy here. So I have 1/3 divided by 6. 6 as a fraction looks like this. Take the time to write it so you don't mess up your reciprocal. It's 1/3, keep it, change the sign, use the reciprocal, multiply, multiply. Here's your answer. 1/18 is the size of that little tiny piece there. Here we have 1/4. Shading in only 1 out of 4 pieces. I need to divide this 1/4 into 3 pieces. Okay, and so we're looking for the size of this piece here. Take the time to write out your statement with division first. Don't change anything until you've got it set up with the whole number, just like this. Keep your dividend the same. Change the sign, flip, and use the reciprocal of this, the opposite, the upside down version, only changing the second one to the opposite. Multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. Look at the size of your little tiny answer, and that should make sense. Now, if you don't like the way I'm not lining everything out, you may certainly do that. It's just not really always necessary. So I could have 3 pieces here and then do 3 more, 6, 9, 12. Now you can see all the 12 pieces, and we're just identifying one of them. Don't have to do it, but you can if it makes you feel happy. Now for this tape diagram, I have 1/5. And we're only dividing it into 2 pieces. So I have my 1/5 divided by 2. 2 as a whole number looks like that. Keep it, change the sign, use the reciprocal, multiply across the top and the bottom. There's your answer. Okay? Now, I hope you're getting the hang of it because I've done this a lot on the previous lesson for 25. And then this is really, it's the same objective, it's the same skill, it's the same strategy. We're just switching the, we've got the unit fraction by a whole number, but in the previous one it was a whole number by a unit fraction. So all we've done is flip-flop that whole number location and the fraction. Now here, because we're going to divide and then multiply to check, it's going to look like, I'm going to try to eliminate the steps as much as possible. So here I'm going to put my whole number in a fraction over 1 so that I can make my equivalent fraction right here. Now remember, when dividing, your dividend has to be big enough for the largest number in your fraction. 1 is not big enough for 10 to divide into it. It has to be at least 10. So my scale factor for both the 1 and the 2, it has to be 10 times greater. So 1 times 10 is 10, and 10 times 2 is 20. Now my new dividend, while I have not changed the location or the value, I've made it equivalent. Therefore, I can divide by 10 over 1. When this is the right size, the right amount of pieces, I can divide 10 by 10 and get 1, and I can divide 20 by 1 and get 20. Now this is my answer, all squeezed in here because they don't give you any room to work. Okay, so 1/20 is my answer. Then they say multiply to check. So you take your answer, and just like a traditional division problem, you take your quotient and you multiply it by the divisor, which is 10 over 1. When you multiply across the top and you multiply across the bottom, you get 10/20, which is equal to 1/2. Now, in the previous video, I said, and we're back. Now, what we're back to is we're back to the dividend. This is what we started with. It's also what we started with here. It's equivalent. So, all this fun work that they want you to do for Common Core is so much easier if you do it the old school way. And if you don't know what that is, go watch my problem set video for lesson 25 because I tell you all about the easy way to do this. Okay? You're going to keep your dividend the same. Don't touch it, don't change it. Okay? Keep it. Multiply. You're using the opposite sign, and we're going to multiply by the opposite of what we had. So you opposite gives you the answer right away. And it works every single time. So that's why I do this. I don't do any of this ever with my students unless I'm preparing them for some kind of crazy test where they might have to solve what this is. Or, you know, well, what would be the equivalent dividend if you had to blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I would say, oh, you have to be able to find this. But when in reality you're never going to use this, and in 6th grade and beyond, you're going to be using this. That's why I really encourage this method. Yay, stars, happy faces, use this. Okay, but for those of you whose teachers are saying, please do find an equivalent, I will help you here. All right, so I need something that is at least 10, so my scale factor, 10, multiply by 10, 10 times 1, and then 10 times 4. Now that is still equivalent to 1/4. I'm going to divide by 10 over 1, same divisor. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 40 divided by 1 is 40. So my answer, I can expect it to be 1/40. Multiply to check by your divisor. Multiply across, simplify, and we're back. See? 1/4, 1/4. easy way, take your original fraction, multiply by the opposite. Answer. Done. Okay, this one, you will have your equivalent fraction that doesn't have to be multiplied by 10 now. The divisor is only 5. So I need to have at least a 5 here. So scale factor, 5. 5 times 1, 5 times 3. 5/15 is still equivalent to 1/3. Divide by 5 over 1, that's your divisor. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 1 is 15. Multiply to check. That same divisor. Multiply, multiply, simplify, and we're back. Keep it, change it, flip it. Keep, change the sign, flip the fraction, answer. Move on. Hopefully you can see that. It's not too crooked. I need a number at least as big as 3 for the top. So 3 is your scale factor. 3 times 1, 3 times 5. Still equivalent to 1/5. Divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 1 is 15. If this is your quotient, multiply by your divisor. 1 times 3 is 3. 15 times 1 is 15. Simplify this by dividing both by 3, and you get 1/5, and we're back. Keep it, change the sign, flip and multiply by the reciprocal, answer 1/15. Same as what we got here, same. Okay, bottom boxes. You need to have something at least as big as 4. Use 4 as your scale factor. I'm not going to write it up on top this time because I'm out of room. It's really squishy. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 8, 32. Divide by 4 over 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 32 divided by 1 is 32. Take your quotient, 1/32. Multiply to check by 4 over 1, which is your divisor. 4 times 1, or 1 times 4, 32 times 1. Simplify and get 1/8, and you're back. But the easy way is to keep the 1/8, change the sign, multiply by the reciprocal, and get 1/32 this way. Okay, you can always just do the division though. I need something at least as big as 3. 3 is my scale factor. 3/21 divided by 3 over 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 21 divided by 1 is 21. That can be your expected answer. 1/21 is my quotient times 3 over 1. Multiply across, simplify, or do it the easy way. Take 1/7. Use the opposite of the opposite. 1/21. Next one. I need at least a number as big as 5. 5 is my scale factor. 5 and 50. Divided by, my eyeballs are going crazy. It's like, oh, I've done this so many times. 5 over 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 50 divided by 1 is 50. Use your quotient, multiply to check, go across, simplify, and we're back. Or take your 1/10 and instead of dividing by 5 over 1, multiply by 1 over 5. And you have your answer here. Okay, 1/50. Last one, thank goodness. 20 has to be my number, so everything is multiplied by 20. We're going to get 20 over 100. divided by 20 over 1. 20 divided by 20 is 1, and 100 divided by 1 is 100. So my answer is 1/100th. That's my quotient. Check it by multiplication. Get 20/100ths, which is equal to 1/5 when you divide both top and bottom by 20. So there is all what the book says to do. Divide, then multiply to check. And here's what I'm saying. If you have 1/5 and you're dividing by 20 over 1, multiply by the reciprocal and have an easier time with it. 1/20th and get 1/100th like that. Sorry it's crooked, but I didn't have to change my iPad. All right, back of the page. Now we have a couple of word problems, so we'll get through this quickly. Hang in there. Oh, click subscribe. If you're doing nothing, click subscribe and come back again. Teams of 4 are competing in a quarter-mile relay race. Teams of 4 in a quarter-mile relay race. Each runner must run the same exact distance. What is the distance each teammate runs? So if we have teams of 4 competing in a quarter-mile relay race, then take your, what would be the whole mile, okay? I don't have that much. I only have a quarter mile. So your model can be like, here's me with my quarter mile. Okay, so your model would look something like this. It's not a mile, it's a quarter of a mile. But teams of 4 are competing in this race, and so each person represents one of these spaces. So each runner has to run one of those sections. So your model should look like this, and then you can write your statement that it's the 1/4 being shared by 4 people. Go ahead and put your whole number, if you didn't already, over 1. And then I will not be dividing it. Heck no. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to change and multiply by the reciprocal to get 1/16, which is what this is. 4, 8, 12, 16 pieces would be here if I divided the whole thing up. So 1/16 of a mile for each runner. Hopefully you got that for your answer. If you did, good job. Pat yourself on the back. All right, Solomon has read 1/3 of his book. Great job. We love reading here. He finishes the book by reading the same amount each night for 5 nights. Same amount of the book. What fraction of the book does he read each of the 5 nights? All right, so he already read 1/3. That's kind of done and not really relevant anymore. So you can divide your book into 3 parts, and this is all done, but we don't really care about that because that's done. He finishes the book by reading the same amount each night for 5 nights. That's this part. Not done yet. That's 2/3. Okay, so you want to just say, hey, nice job with the 1/3, but I don't really need that to be the shaded part. I need this part. I'm interested in this because this is going to be broken into 5 nights. I need 2/3 of the book to be shared by 5 nights. 2/3 of the book to be shared evenly in 5 nights. So setting it up, first of all, don't use that fraction. Use what's left. That's what we're finishing. Okay, so check your work there. If you want to just do the math and then work on your model, you can do that. So I would take my 2/3 of the book and I would multiply by the reciprocal and see that 2/15 of the book is going to be read each night. Label that. Now, if you want your model to reflect it, like it says in the directions on the previous page, you should have a model that reflects that. So if I have thirds, but I need 15ths, and you might see, well, this will not be conducive to 5 nights because 2 isn't divisible, or you can't count by 2 to get 5. But what you can do is you can break this up into the 15ths. Now, if these are 3 pieces, you can break each one into 5 because 3 times 5 is 15. And then 5 here, noting where the thirds are. Make it heavier if it helps you. You can also do it over here, even though that's not super relevant anymore. Okay, so now you have 15ths. And so in each night, it's going to be 2 of them. Now you can use colors on these too, because what happens is you might notice that it doesn't exactly conform to the tape diagram to have these little sections. See right here? This would happen over 2, it's the 2 15ths each night. So right there, that's going to be a night. So now moving to the next question, it's kind of important that you look at this way, because if he reads 14 pages on each of the 5 nights, how long is the whole book? So if you recognize that this, you can make the tape diagram again if you can't really follow it here, but if you recognize that this is 1 night and that's 14, okay, I'll make it one more time so I can focus on the pages this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, not the best sections, but okay. So this right here is going to be 14 pages. Now, if 14 is divided into 2 pieces, then you can see that each one of these little sections is 7. How many sections do you have? And you've got the whole book. So there are 15 sections. We know that from here, and we know it because we did a 3 times 5 to make our pieces. So it's 15 of those sections times 7 pages per section, which makes 14 on each of the 5 nights. Okay, but if you split it in half, then you can have the size of each one. You don't have to do it this way. You could do 14 and then count out all the pieces. But this just seems easier to me. 7 times 5 is 35, and then 7, 8, 9, 10. 105 pages in the book. There you go. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you get all these right, and I hope you make all these good corrections, and we will see you. Click subscribe. Do it. Just do it. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.